Hello and welcome to Weekly Gaming News, title still pending. Apologies for a lack of a news video last week. I accidentally overbooked myself in terms of streams and that put me severely behind on recording. But we're here now, and that's what matters, so let's dive into the news. First up, we have a follow-up from one of last week's stories. An update from the Pokemon Terra leak that happened earlier this month. It appears as though the legitimacy of a certain translation has been called into question. The Typhlosion myth is something that took the world by storm, birthing an astronomical amount of memes and art that called out Typhlosion for their very problematic, to put it mildly, behavior. It appears as though the translation that caused such a storm on the internet, however, was done through a machine, therefore the translation contains some inaccurate information. Twitter user Roltis did a translation and deep dive into the tale and its ties to Japanese mythology. While this translation may not entirely redeem Typhlosion, I think understanding where the Typhlosion myth comes from adds a lot of important context to this entire news story. I will not recap it here, but I will leave a link to the translation in the description. Please keep in mind that dark and upsetting things are discussed in the thread, so please be careful. I think stories like this are good reminders to always double check on official translations. Whenever you have a translation coming through, especially a machine, there are bound to be inaccuracies. It's always good to hire a professional who understands the nuance behind the language and can accurately translate all of that into the language that it needs to be translated into. Big thank you to Roltis for going through and translating it and working with some other translators to make sure that the accurate tale did get out to the public. Moving on. Second on our list of news topics today, grab your hunting horn and grab your insect glaive because it's monster hunting time. The widely anticipated Monster Hunter Wilds is having an open beta this week, boasting lobbies that hold up to 100 players each. Wow, that's a lot of people. Some PS5 users already have access to this as the PS5 Plus open beta started on October 28th and runs until the 30th. A general open beta for all consoles and PC will run from October 31st to November 3rd. Players have been diving into the beta already, like I said, and some neat things have been shown off on social media, such as the game's arachnophobia mode, which allows players with said anxiety disorder to turn the spider-like enemies into slimy things. Very neat. We love to see accessibility for those who need those kinds of options. Very cool. I'm glad they added this. If you get a chance to go hunting, I hope you have a good time. May you get all the drops you need and may you never cart. I will be out of town most of the open beta and I'm really sad about that. I'm a dual blades main, by the way, and if you play Monster Hunter, you are morally obligated to go into the comments and tell me what you main. Happy hunting. Next, an Xbox rep makes a statement about an old beloved franchise and receives a lot of backlash on the internet. Recently, at a Microsoft Flight Simulator event, the vice president of marketing over at Xbox, Aaron Greenberg, made a comment that got a lot of people really riled up. Apparently, Greenberg asked attendees at the event what series they would like to see games for in the future, and someone shouted Banjo-Kazooie. This prompted Greenberg to reply that nobody cares about Banjo-Kazooie. This caused a tremendous amount of backlash on the internet, but Greenberg later clarified online that he had been speaking sarcastically and knew that the bear and bird have a tremendous amount of fans. This did calm the masses down somewhat, but there are still occasional grumblings about this entire debacle, even several days later from fans. I already made a video on the subject diving further into it, so if you'd like to check that out, there should be a handy little pop-up in the corner that will direct you over to that video. Next story. Next up, we have the possibly first confirmed game for the Nintendo Switch's successor. Whoa. In a console trailer for Yooka-Replaylee, Playtonic cheekily revealed that the lizard and bat duo would be making an appearance on the Nintendo? They even added googly eyes to the Nintendo logo, which I thought was a really cute touch, honestly. It's very on brand for them. Presumably, this is a stand-in for whatever the Switch 2's actual name will be, and they're simply saying that the game will be on that console as well. This is the first game to at least be soft confirmed for the next Nintendo console, which honestly, this is a pretty left field game to be the first confirmed game, even if it's like a soft confirmation, but All right, I'll take it. I'm excited for Yooka-Replaylee, by the way. I was actually a backer for the game when it was on, I think it was Kickstarter. I was a backer for Yooka-Laylee. Played the game when it came out on my PS4. I do plan to play Yooka-Replaylee when it comes out. I hear it is much improved. Not that I really had a bad experience with Yooka-Laylee, but I'm excited to see how they polished it up. Moving on. And now we have a very serious update about the future of gaming preservation. I am going to be very upfront with you guys. I am a silly dragon on the internet. I only vaguely have an amateur's understanding of how copyright works, despite watching Legal Eagle for the past few years. But I am going to do my best to put what is a big legal thing into average day Joe Schmo lingo. Bear with me. In 2021, there was a petition sent to the US Copyright Office. This petition was made by the Video Game History Foundation, or VGHF, as well as the Software Preservation Network. Within the petition was an exemption proposal that basically asked that libraries and archives be allowed to remotely store digital versions of older out-of-print video games, and they were to make these games accessible to researchers and historians. Right now, libraries and archives cannot do that without violating the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, otherwise known as a DMCA. I'm sure if you're a Nintendo fan, you know exactly what that is. According to the VGHF, roughly 87% of video games released in the United States before 2010 are out of print. They are no longer having copies be made. 87%. These games cannot be played unless they are played on their original console using an original cartridge, or, through other certain means. Cough, cough. Finding such things as an original console and an original cartridge is starting to prove to be not only difficult due to low numbers circulating on the resale market, but also very expensive, causing this option to be basically just impossible for a lot of people. The petition and the proposal were unfortunately struck down this week. The reasoning for this is that it was argued that having libraries and archives store video games would potentially damage the market for retro gaming, as sometimes companies do go back and remaster or re-release older titles. The US Copyright Office also claims that the video games would be used for recreational purposes rather than research purposes, because it's not like people go to the library to rent out a book or a movie for recreational purposes. I'm just saying. Anyways, this has caused a lot of advocates for gaming preservation to be, I would say, rightfully upset. The main argument against this ruling is that, well, sure, sometimes companies do re-release games, but they definitely don't do that to every game. Probably not even a fourth of their games, honestly. So what then happens to titles that are not remastered or re-released, or say put on a digital store to be bought that way? The answer is that they just fade out from being playable. They don't become accessible anymore. Consoles are dying left and right. Just the other day, people were talking about how their Wii U's have started dying because of a corruption issue within the hardware. And that's not even an old console. That's a console that's just one step older than the current Nintendo console. I've already had to hold funerals for my PS3, my original Wii, some of my original GameCube games, and some of my Game Boy Color games. Just owning them isn't enough to preserve them. Technology does wear down, and not having these games somewhere safe in an archive does not guarantee that they won't effectively just become lost media at some point. Although the petition was struck down, VGHF has vowed to keep up the fight, to which I say, best of luck. I am absolutely rooting for you guys. Next up, an update on the Nintendo Playtest program. The Nintendo Playtest program that opened applications a while back is now underway. Quite a few details about what the playtest would entail did leak 2 days prior to the playtest going live. I did do a video covering the leaks over here, insert pop-up right about now, but there have been some more alleged leaks and rumors, though they're not confirmed, so I don't really want to share them here to avoid spreading misinformation. Someone did attempt to stream the playtest on Twitch and got reported less than 30 minutes into the stream. I really don't know why they thought they'd get away with that, but I mean, you do you, I guess. Although players have been encouraged to not share any details about the playtest, some early reviews are starting to come in already. These reviews are all fairly vague, but they do seem to be rather mixed. Some people are saying the gameplay loop is just not very engaging and feels very undercooked, like the game needs more to it. Some people are saying the game is great. We will just have to see what they do with this feedback, I suppose. I still think it's a Secret Me game. I'm on that train wholeheartedly. Next up, the finale of Masahiro Sakurai's YouTube channel. The finale for Super Smash Bros. Director Masahiro Sakurai's YouTube series aired on October 22nd. For the uninformed, Sakurai has, for the last 2 years, been releasing videos about game development on a YouTube channel called Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games. The videos are incredibly well done, super professionally made. In the finale, Sakurai talked about the process of making the videos and how his aim for the channel was to pass along his knowledge and wisdom as a game dev to the next generation of developers. In total, Sakurai spent 90 million yen on the YouTube channel. For people too lazy to convert that to US dollars, that is around 600,000 US dollars. Sakurai hired a professional video editing team and translators to facilitate a really smooth process of constant uploads for the last 2 years. During that time, they released 260 videos. At no point did Sakurai ever monetize the channel, meaning he never expected nor saw any revenue from it. The goal purely was to get his knowledge in a publicly accessible place for the next generation of game developers. I am not a game dev, and I've not watched nearly all the videos, but I have watched a few. Again, they are extremely well done and worth watching if you have an interest in that sort of thing. He also did a video on his friend and the late president of Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, which that video was truly incredible and definitely the kind of thing you watch with a box of tissues nearby. Iwata is very famous for being a president that was really involved with Nintendo. He is credited as the creator of Nintendo Directs, and he often participated in Directs, and he would often converse with his employees, and he really seemed to care deeply about his staff. During the Wii U era, he famously took a pay cut so that Nintendo could pay the salaries of all the employees. Although some people in recent years have claimed he may have done that because of it being difficult to lay off workers in Japan, I personally think that argument falls flat when you look at some of the details during that time and you listen to some of the accounts from other people about who Iwata was. His pay cut was 50%, which is very significant. He also said during that time that if we reduce the number of employees for better short-term financial results, employee morale will decrease. And I sincerely doubt employees who fear that they may be laid off will be able to develop software titles that could impress people around the world. We should, of course, cut unnecessary costs and pursue efficient business operations. I also know that some employers publicize their restructuring plan to improve their financial performance by letting a number of their employees go. But at Nintendo, employees make valuable contributions in their respective fields. So I believe that laying off a group of employees will not help to strengthen Nintendo's business in the long run. Those words were said in 2013, and 11 years later, they really do hit differently when looking at the gaming industry now. I think we live in a world that would be much improved by more Sakurais and more Iwatas. This is verging from the news into a bit of an emotional tangent, but it really is genuinely an amazing thing that Sakurai spent all of that money to pass on his knowledge to whoever he could. He really emphasized that in the video. He even talked about going to conferences and talking at colleges and stuff like that, and why that was, a good opportunity to reach some people, but he wanted to reach more people. He wanted to pass off that wisdom to literally as many people as possible. It's a kind of generosity and kindness that I don't feel is very common these days. Not for many people, at least. I know Sakurai is forever going to be known as the father of Smash Bros. And Kirby, but I hope that this channel that he made and this act of kindness is often attributed to his legacy as well. He put in a lot of effort, and you can really tell he does hope that his knowledge and wisdom will reach the people it needs to reach. I mean, the video's got thousands and thousands of views, so I'd say he did pretty darn good. Moving on. Next up, the studio that made Concord is shut down by Sony. In an announcement that surprises pretty much nobody, Firewalk, the studio responsible for the mega flop Concord, has been shut down. Sony had the following to say about shutting down Firewalk. Regarding Firewalk, as announced in early September, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all of our options. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. While there was a lot of speculation that Concord might rise from the ashes as a sort of new title, it seems as though that will not be happening after all, even despite there being updates to the game post-mortem on Steam. Sony also is shutting down Neon Koi, which is a studio that I am personally not familiar with, but it seems as though they were making a live service mobile action game. Sony is claiming that they are trying to place workers from these studios into other places, but there's no guarantee that they will be able to do that for everyone. If I'm honest, my perspective on this is I really don't like that we're at a point where, although Concord's failure was immense, it was catastrophic for Sony, I don't like that we're at a point where a single failure is all it takes to shut down a studio. Even though Concord had a lot of issues and it just didn't land with audiences, you can look at these trailers and you can tell that there were people who really worked on this and made these theatrical trailers look as best as they possibly can. You know, all gripes about Concord aside, I really do think that there were people that really cared about this. This entire studio just got shut down over one failure. Yeah, colossal as it may be, it was just one failure, and I really do feel like there could have been a lot of really good stuff coming out of this studio. Actually, when it comes to Concord, I heard that the gameplay was actually fine. I heard that whoever was writing the lore actually was putting in a lot of effort into it and really liked what they were working on. That is stuff that I've heard from the grapevine, however, so take that with a grain of salt. I just feel like the studio was definitely capable, and it's a shame that it ended up like this. It's just a shame. I really hope that we move away from this kind of one big failure, bottom line kind of mentality and just nixing jobs left and right. It's really depressing to see. I also hope for the best for everyone who was affected by these studios shutting down, because that has got to be very, very rough. And for our final story, Nintendo releases a music app? On October 30th, Nintendo Shadowdropped a new app for smartphones called Nintendo Music. It is available for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers only and includes music from 23 games. They have claimed that they will be adding more to the app over time. You can stream or download music from the app, as you would on just about any streaming app. There are various playlists inspired by characters, different moods, and various themes. There is a spoiler function where you can hide soundtracks that may give away things about the ending. I think that's a pretty thoughtful feature to include. You can also extend tracks if you'd like to listen to them for a longer amount of time, similar to how people post certain songs on the internet and extend them to 15 or 30 minutes. All in all, this was a very surprising release that I don't think anybody anticipated. I do wish, however, that this app included the names of the composers who composed the songs. Right now, it just says where the song is from. I really hope they change that in the future. The composers who made these soundtracks deserve recognition, I think, especially on an app that's dedicated to their hard work. And that about does it for this week. I'm hearing some rumors that the Switch 2's announcement is almost imminent. Of course, that's been a rumor for over a month now, so who knows? Regardless, I will see you in the next video, be it a sudden reaction to the Switch 2 or me yelling about squids. See ya, and thanks for watching.